1968 1 cent. The U.S. 1 cent coin, often referred to as the Lincoln penny, has a rich history. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, this iconic coin has been a staple in American currency for over a century. The 1968 penny is part of this enduring legacy. Lincoln Memorial reverse 1959 to 2008. In 1968, the U.S. Mint was producing pennies in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This year marked the first time since 1964 that coins from the San Francisco Mint were struck for circulation, which is important for collectors. The pennies from Denver and San Francisco bear a mint mark D for Denver, S for San Francisco, while Philadelphia's version has no mint mark. Now, let's talk about the design and composition of this 1 cent coin. The 1968 penny still features Victor David Brenner's classic bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. At the time, the coin was made of 95% copper with 5% zinc and tin, weight 3.11 grams, diameter 19.05 m. Metal composition 95% copper, 5% zinc, tin, bronze. The copper composition is significant because it impacts the melt value of the coin. Given the high copper content, these pennies are worth more for their metal value than their face value, especially considering the rising cost of copper over the years. Now let's talk about mintages. Over 4 billion 1 cent coins were struck in 1968, but here's how the numbers break down by mint. Philadelphia Mint No Mint Mark 1.7 billion coins. Denver Mint D Mint Mark 2.9 billion coins. San Francisco Mint S Mint Mark 258 million coins for circulation. Coins from the San Francisco Mint with the S Mint mark tend to be more sought after by collectors, especially in high grades, or if they're proof coins which were specially made for collectors that year as well. So, how much is a 1968 US 1 cent coin worth today? The value depends largely on the coin's condition or grade and whether it has a mint mark. Circulated condition 1 to 2 cents. Uncirculated condition MS 61 $5. Proof coins S Mint mark to $10 depending on quality. Error coins e.g. double die $5,100. In circulated condition, these pennies are usually only worth their face value, but if you come across a 1968 penny in uncirculated condition, it could be worth around $1 to $5. Proof coins, especially from San Francisco, can fetch even more, up to $10 depending on their condition. You keep an eye out for error coins like the double die varieties, which are highly sought after and can be worth $50 or more. 1994 1 cents. The U.S. 1 cent coin, commonly known as the penny, has a long and fascinating history dating back to 1793. However, the design we're all familiar with today, featuring Abraham Lincoln, was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The 1994 penny is part of this long-running series, and although it might seem like just another penny, it carries its own significance. Lincoln Memorial Reverse 1959-2008. The 1994 penny features the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side, a design that was in circulation from 1959 to 2008. It replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse, and it's a symbol of both Lincoln's legacy and American history. Now let's talk design. The 1994 penny's obverse shows a detailed portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This iconic design has remained on the penny for over a century, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Designer Victor David Brenner. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial is depicted, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln in the center of the memorial. Designer Frank Gasparo. While the design is classic, the material has changed over time. The 1994 penny is made of a copper-plated zinc composition. In 1982, the U.S. Mint switched from primarily copper coins to a core of zinc with a thin copper coating to save on production costs. It weighs about 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters, consistent with pennies from that era. The 1994 penny was minted at 2 locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If you look closely, you can tell where your coin was minted by checking for the mint mark under the date. A D represents the Denver Mint, while no mark means it was minted in Philadelphia. Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver D. Both mints produced large quantities of pennies in 1994, with over 6.5 billion pennies struck in Philadelphia and over 7 billion in Denver. 1972 D 1 cent. The 1972 D Lincoln penny is a coin that was minted in Denver, Colorado, hence the D mint mark beneath the date. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of American currency since 1909, honoring the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin's obverse features Lincoln's portrait, while the reverse showcases the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. In 1972, over 2.66 billion pennies were minted at the Denver Mint, making the 1972 D penny relatively common. The coin is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which was standard for Lincoln pennies before 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc composition to save costs. 1972 was a notable year in U.S. history. The Vietnam War was ongoing and President Richard Nixon was in office. The penny remained a symbol of American heritage, with Lincoln's portrait as a reminder of the nation's values of freedom and unity. In the early 1970s, inflation was on the rise, but the humble penny still played a key role in daily transactions. As a piece of history, the 1972 penny carries the stories of the time, whether it was used to buy a newspaper, candy, or saved in a jar for a rainy day. But what about its value today? Now let's talk about the coin's value. The 1972 penny is still in circulation today, but due to its copper content, it's worth more than just 1 cent. At current market rates, the copper in the coin alone is valued at approximately 2 to 3 cents. However, when it comes to collectors, condition is key. A well-circulated 1972 penny generally holds a value between 2 to 10 cents. But if you have one in uncirculated or mint condition, it could be worth more. The most valuable 1972 pennies are those that have been well preserved. Coins graded as mint state can fetch around $5 to $10 depending on the grade. In extremely high grades like MS65 or higher, the value can increase even further. Additionally, error coins, such as those with off-center strikes or doubling on the design, can attract serious attention from collectors. So what should you look for? When examining your 1972 penny, check for any unusual marks, such as doubling on the date or letters. Also, pay attention to the coin's condition. Coins with minimal wear, sharp details, and a bright luster are much more valuable. 1974 1 cent. The 1974 Lincoln cent, just like most modern U.S. pennies, features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, which was designed by Victor David Brenner. This design has been used since 1909, and it commemorates the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse side, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo, which was first introduced in 1959. This replaced the original wheat stalks design and remained on the penny until 2008. Surrounding the Lincoln Memorial are the inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum, which means out of many one, and at the bottom, the denomination 1 cent is proudly displayed. Now let's talk about 1974 specifically. This year was pretty interesting for penny production because it came just a year after the U.S. experimented with producing pennies using aluminum to combat the rising cost of copper. However, that idea was scrapped, so the 1974 penny retained its traditional copper composition. The 1974 penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This copper-heavy composition was used until 1982, when pennies began to be made with a zinc core and copper plating. The 1974 penny was minted in 3 main locations, and there are a few versions collectors should be aware of. Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark. If your 1974 penny doesn't have a mint mark, it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Denver Mint D mint mark. If there's a small D below the date, it was minted in Denver. 1974 pennies with an S were produced in San Francisco, but these are usually proof coins, which are specially made for collectors, so always check for these mint marks when looking at your pennies. The mint location can sometimes affect the value. Now, let's get to the part everyone's waiting for, the value of the 1974 penny. Circulated condition. In general, 1974 pennies that have been in circulation for a while are worth about face value, which is just 1 cent. However, due to the copper content, these coins are technically worth more than a penny if you were to melt them down. As of today, the copper value of a single 1974 penny can be around 2 to 3 cents, depending on the market. Uncirculated condition. If you have an uncirculated 1974 penny that hasn't seen much wear, it could be worth around 10 to 30 cents. These coins retain their luster and original appearance, making them more desirable to collectors. Proof coins. The 1974 S-proof pennies, which were made in smaller quantities for collectors, can be worth about $1 to $2 or even more, depending on the condition. Bonus value info. In recent years, certain high-grade examples of the 1974 penny, especially those graded by third-party services like PCGS or NGC, have sold for $100 or more. The key here is getting a high grade, typically MS67 or above, which means the coin is in near perfect condition. Now, here's a fun historical tidbit. In 1974, the U.S. Mint actually produced about 1.5 million pennies made of aluminum. However, this experimental coin never made it into circulation. Most were melted down, but a few still exist and are considered incredibly rare. One of these coins was expected to sell for over $200,000. So while it's unlikely you'll find one, it's always fun to know there's a super rare 1974 penny out there. And there you have it. The 1974 Lincoln cent may not seem like much at first glance, but it's got a rich history, some fascinating varieties, and who knows, if you have a high-grade example, it could be worth quite a bit. Thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more coin videos just like this one. Have you found any interesting 1974 pennies in your collection? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep collecting and happy hunting.